Now we'll look at 20 common grammar errors and how to fix them. If you look at the bold text, that is the name of the problem, and then there's a sentence underneath that contains the problem that we'll fix. Number 1, no comma after introductory phrases or words. So if you look at the sentence, under the car we found the cat. The main sentence here is we found the cat. Under the car, we need to add a comma afterwards. That's the introductory phrase. An introductory phrase will usually tell the reader the time, the place, or the situation for the main sentence. Number 2, no comma in a compound sentence. Compound sentence is where two complete sentences are joined together. Doctors are concerned about the rising death rate from cancer. That's the first sentence. The second one is they don't know the cause of it. We're joining those two sentences with the word but, which is a coordinating conjunction. But in order to do that, we need to have a comma. It's a set. So we use the doctors are concerned about the rising death rate from cancer, comma, but, that's the set. They don't know the cause of it. Number 3, no commas around non-essential clauses. So in this sentence, Mary, who lives nearby, was helping by packing the books into boxes. So the phrase or the clause in here, who lives nearby, is helpful information about the subject Mary, but it's not essential to the sentence. We still have a complete, understandable sentence without it. Mary was helping by packing the books into boxes. So when we have this non-essential clause here, we need to put commas around it. Basically, what we're doing is we're introducing the subject and pausing the sentence with a comma, giving a little bit of extra information, who lives nearby, about the subject, and a second comma to say, okay, now let's continue the main sentence. Number 4, unnecessary commas with essential clauses. In this case, the car that I want is out of my price range. The clause that I want is actually important here. We need this because if we just look at the main sentence, the car is out of my price range, it would be unclear to the reader which car we're talking about. So we need this clause to help identify the subject. In this case, we should not use commas around that clause. Number 5, lack of comma in a series. A series is like a list. So when you have a list of 3 or more items or 3 or more objects or elements, we need to add commas. The sidewalk was filled with shouting parents, crying children, and police. The commas are essential here to break apart the different groups. Number 6, comma splice. This is where we join two complete sentences together with just a comma. And you can think of it in a way that commas are not strong enough to hold two sentences together. We need a different type of punctuation for this case. So the punctuation that we can substitute in here is the semicolon. We use a semicolon between two independent clauses or two full sentences in order to emphasize a strong connection between those two sentences. So that's why we're using semicolons. We don't use them often, but they're emphasizing this strong connection. A run-on sentence is similar to a comma splice, except we have two sentences with no punctuation between them. The man walked into the store and he didn't buy anything. So we need something here. In this case, we'll add the comma, but we cannot have only the comma because there we have a comma splice. So we'll add in the coordinating conjunction but. Number 8, a sentence fragment. A sentence fragment is an incomplete idea. When I walked into the room, likely when you're reading the sentence, you're thinking what happened. And really it's the condition when I walked into the word when has signaled that when something happens, something else happened. Okay, so in order to fix that, we need to add an independent clause after a comma. When I walked into the room, comma, I tripped and fell. Vague pronoun references. So a pronoun is like they, for example, in the second sentence. Vague is unclear. So The issue here is my friends and family visited me at the cottage. They suddenly jumped into the lake. It's not entirely clear, absolutely clear to the reader who jumped in. Was it the friends, was it the family, or both? If we wanted to say that both groups jumped in together, then we can signal that by just adding in the word all. They all suddenly jumped in the lake. Now you can see there's no question about who jumped into the lake. So we're absolutely clear and it's no longer vague. Pronoun agreement. This is where we have a situation. You can see every student, this counts as a singular pronoun, and they is a plural pronoun, generally a plural pronoun. So we can't have a singular with a plural. We need them to match. So every student knows they should study is incorrect. The way to repair this is maybe to indicate that it's not each individual student, it's all students. Now we need the S at the end of students. So all students know they should study. Now we fixed it. Number 11, subject-verb agreement. So the subject, the whole team, and the main verb are going to Europe this year. The subject and the verb don't agree. We have a singular subject, the whole team, that's one team, and are is used when we have a plural subject. So we need to change are into is. The whole team is going to Europe this year. If we said all the team members are going to Europe this year, that would have been fine. Number 12, tense shift. You may notice the two verbs in this sentence, I ate breakfast and walked to school. The two verbs in this case don't match. One is past tense and one is present tense. So generally when you're writing sentences, the tense of the verb should match. There are some unusual circumstances that you might be writing about where you're talking about some past situation and referring to something in the present at that time, but in general, it should be consistent. So in this case, I ate breakfast, then walked to school. Number 13, wrong tense or verb form. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So you'll notice that ain't is slang. We need to say isn't, and for broke, we need to have the N at the end there. If it isn't broken, don't fix it. And one additional note here is that if you're doing formal writing or academic writing, we generally don't use these contractions inside the writing. So if it isn't, should be, if it is not broken, do not fix it. Wrong word choice. In this sentence, everyone except the principal complimented the committee on its work. There are 4 words that are not the right spelling, not the right word for the situation. See if you can identify them. Okay, so those are the 4 words. The word accept should actually be accept. The word principal in this case is like the principal idea, the main idea. Should be the person in charge of a school, for example, the principal. Different spelling. Complemented in this case, when you have the word complement with an E after the L, that means when two things go well together. So this wine complements this food, or this color complements this color. When you're paying somebody a compliment, that's spelled with an I. And the committee's work, if we're trying to identify the committee on its work, IT'(S) is a contraction for it is. So if we're showing the possessive form, the committee's work, we need to remove the apostrophe. Number 15, wrong or missing inflected endings. I like fresh squeezed orange juice. You may notice that the verb squeezed is being modified by the word in front of it. The word in front of it, fresh, is an adjective, like fresh orange juice. That would have been fine. However, if we're adjusting or modifying the verb, we need an adverb. So it has to change to I like freshly squeezed orange juice. Number 16, wrong or missing preposition. So a preposition is like these words here, in, on, at, of, to, and so on. So which is better? Should we say, if we're writing, if we're trying to be formal, do we say this thing is different than this thing, or this thing is different from this thing? Different from would be the preference. Different than is more conversational, a little bit more casual. The second point, I'll meet up with my friend later. Is there any word in this sentence where we can delete it and have the exact same meaning in the sentence? Just delete one word and there's no change in meaning. I'll meet up with my friend later. We can remove this preposition because it's just a conversational tone. It has no special meaning in this case. I'll meet with my friend later is completely fine. Number 17, unnecessary shift in person. When one is healthy, you shouldn't worry about wealth. You may notice that one and you are two forms of identifying person in this sentence, but we want them to match. So when one is healthy, one shouldn't worry about wealth. Or more casually, when you're healthy, you shouldn't worry about wealth. Number 18, possessive apostrophe error. So one of these phrases, the student's pens, is plural and one is singular, meaning one of them is talking about a single student's pens and the other one is talking about many students' pens. Okay, so if you guessed that the first one refers to one student's pens, then you were correct. Number 19, we've already touched on this one, but I want to refer to it more specifically. The it's and its error. So one of them refers to it is, and the other one is the possessive. So if you're guessing that the it is, it's with the apostrophe, goes in the first blank, you're correct. It's not the time for the bank to balance its budget. And the last one is called a dangling or misplaced modifier. Freshly painted, John left the room to dry. In this case, you may be thinking that the room was freshly painted, but what if John had been freshly painted with body paint? Freshly painted, John left the room to dry. So that's actually how I would write this sentence if John had been painted. So how can we change the sentence using the freshly painted to indicate more clearly that it's the room, not John? Well, we need to move the modifier as close to the thing it's modifying as possible. And in order to do that, we don't need to add any words, we just need to move freshly painted. And we end up with John left the freshly painted room to dry.